Welcome to Lesson 1. This first lesson focuses on pronunciation and beginning to pray the Rosary in Latin. The format for this lesson is the basic format that will be used throughout the course. So the basic order is a new phrase, usually some review, English grammar if applicable, Latin grammar, that lesson's vocabulary, and then your homework. So we'll start with the phrase. This is one with which you may already be familiar. Ave Maria, which means Hail Mary. And of course, that's the first line from the prayer. It's also the title of many famous hymns. There are several versions of Latin alphabets. Ecclesiastical Latin uses the same alphabet as modern English, although sometimes you'll find that the letter J doesn't appear. In some courses and texts, you'll find the letter I used instead. The Latina Rosarii course does use the letter J. Vowels in Latin are the same as the vowels used in English. A, E, I, O, and U, and Y, although a consonant, is also classified as a vowel. Here's how they sound. A is pronounced R as in fast, for example, pater. E is pronounced A as in they, for example, deus. I is pronounced E as in ravine, for example, fides. O is pronounced or as in poor, for example, ora. U is pronounced U as in put, for example, sunt. You'll sometimes come across two vowels written side by side, and they're usually pronounced separately, for example, deus and introibo. There are some exceptions, however. When A and E are together, they're pronounced A as in fade, for example, celum. When A and U are together, they're pronounced Au as in Faust, for example, laudamus. Consonants now. C is pronounced as K in cat unless it's followed by E, I, or AE when it's pronounced as Ch, for example, crux, but cibus. G is pronounced G as in goat unless it's followed by E or I when it's pronounced J, for example, gaudium, but egito. H is usually silent, for example, ora, ostia. J is pronounced as the Y in yellow, although as I mentioned before, sometimes I is used instead of J. But you don't have to worry about that for this course. That's just something that you might come across in another text. So, an example of that is Jesus. And here is Jesus spelt with an I just for your information as well. CH is pronounced K as in chemist, for example, Christum. T is pronounced T as in toast, unless it's followed by I, then it's pronounced as tsi, for example, tua, but gratia. TH is pronounced as the T in toast, for example, Thomas. GN is pronounced like the N in onion, for example, diniatus, agnus. SC is pronounced as the SK in school, unless it's followed by E or I when it's pronounced sh, for example, scola, but descendit. R ideally should be rolled, but some of you may find this difficult, and I certainly do. Sometimes I can manage it, sometimes I can't. And if you've brought up with an English-speaking background, it's going to be a bit more difficult. So just do your best, and remember, practice makes perfect. Now, here are some tips for memorizing the Rosary in Latin. You'll find the prayers in the text itself, and they're also available as a download for this lesson. I suggest that you print them and laminate them and keep them wherever you pray, and make a copy for each of the people who'll be praying with you. Start with the written version in front of you, then gradually look up from the text or close your eyes for a line or two, and you'll begin to commit the words to memory. Eventually, you'll be able to concentrate on the mysteries themselves, which of course is the purpose of the Rosary. If you're having trouble fitting a rosary into your daily routine, it's a great idea to schedule a time, and then it becomes a priority. And this can work if you're praying alone, or if you're praying with the family, or if you're praying with a friend by Zoom. You may wish to do it after dinner or after some other significant time of the day, or you may even want to set an actual time, like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Something that you'll come across in Latin that you may not have seen before is the paradigm. And a paradigm is a table of word forms that can be recited as a chant. Here's a simple example. You'll see 3 columns. The first one isn't recited. We start at the top of the singular column and work downwards. Then we move to the plural column and move downwards. So this one is recited o, se, te, mus, tis, nt. And you'll learn what that actually means later on, but it would be great if you can start to memorize it now. Vocabulary, your first 6 Latin words. Ave means hail. Salve also means hail. Maria, Mariae, feminine Mary. Anima, animae, feminine soul. Gratia, gratiae, feminine grace. Primus, prima, primum, first. Now, you would have noticed that the words that I spoke were a little different from the words that are written. We use an abbreviated form for writing our vocabulary entries, and if you look at a Latin dictionary, you'll also find the abbreviated form. But don't be overwhelmed by the notation. Start to memorize now, even before you understand what everything means. Write the short version, but recite the long version. And taking the example of Maria, the expanded version again is Maria, Mariae, feminine Mary. Homework now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, you'll find some exercises in your text at the end of lesson 1. And you'll also find some supplementary exercises to download. Now they're optional, but if you have the time and you really want to learn Latin well, I do suggest that you follow up with the supplementary exercises. The course is designed to be used over a week. You may want to go a bit more quickly, especially at the beginning, or you can even go more slowly. It's totally up to you how much time you have and how quickly you grasp the concepts. There's no shame in going a bit slower if something doesn't make sense to you. As part of the supplementary exercises, you'll also find a drill schedule, which is a table with some suggested work for every day of the week. And that's usually the form of memory work, and it can be done orally or written, and it's in addition to your supplementary exercises. As time goes on, this review becomes very important because there's a lot to memorize in Latin. That's it from me. Until next time, goodbye. God bless.